All right, let's roll. So this webinar is on how to avoid costly mistakes, five of them, when buying a home, or how not to mess this up. Jeff Rhodes at One Presidential Mortgage is our sponsor for this. We've known Jeff a long time. He is a really great dude, and we're happy to partner with him and to refer our clients to him because he does such a good job and he works with such care for our clients. So Jeff is making all this possible. So whether you decide, whoever you decide your agent should be, give Jeff a chance to be your mortgage lender. I think you'll be happy. All right, so our goal tonight is easy. We want you to feel at the end of this webinar like you can handle this process. Like this is something that you can do pretty low stress. Whew, we got this, right? Let's go. All right, so let me ask right now, you can drop it in the chat. How are you feeling? Concerned, stressed out, intimidated? What's a word that comes to mind when you think about buying a home? I know a lot of people are really uncertain about it. They're like, should I do this? Should I not do it? They're worried if they can afford it. Just all the stuff that has to be done becomes overwhelming. It really stresses them out. Um, but here's the good news. You don't have to feel that way. Intrigued. Okay, I like intrigued. I'll take intrigued. It's a lot to it. There's a lot to learn. But anyway, so we're gonna go through the entire process so you'll be comfortable with the steps, and then we're gonna take any questions you have to make it even easier. All right. Oh, let me introduce myself. You've probably seen my ads. I'm Drew Little. I am a realtor, obviously. I'm the CEO and lead agent for the Home Run team here in Virginia Beach. Um, I've got a lot of certifications you can see there. I've been doing this a while, and lifelong learning is a thing of mine. I'm always trying to get better at my craft for my clients. A little bit more about me. I've been a baseball coach for over 30 seasons. I'm a graduate of the College of William and Mary, twice actually. I got my BA there in history, where I also majored in economics, and then I'm an MBA from William and Mary. My big gives are the CHKD. Both my brother and my son had their lives saved by Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters. So that is a big thing in my life trying to support those. And then also the Boys and Girls Clubs. The WW Houston Boys Club in Norfolk kept me off the streets in the 80s and might have saved my life. I believe the American dream, and I believe in the American dream and what I can do to make families' lives better, more secure, and wealthier through real estate. Just a little bit of background on that. My parents were great people. They were smart people, they were hardworking people, but they never really prepared for their future. They never really were solid. And what ended up happening was they both worked right up until the day they died, both of them. And so when I got into this business, I thought if I can help more people retire sooner, have a fuller life, a wealthier life, more time with their family through the investing power of real estate, I want to do that. That's what got me into this business. Now, what I've found since then is that I love working with first-time buyers. Here's some of our clients. You know, everybody on this page is a different story, but it's just so gratifying when you help someone buy a home, whether they're buying a retirement home or an investment property or their very first home or a vacation property because they've worked hard their whole life and they want to get away. I love whatever the motivation. I love helping people do this and do it the right way. Oh, and some of them like me pretty well too, I guess. Got a few positive reviews, more than a few, really. So here's what I've learned about this process. A lot of buyers, most buyers, actually kind of mess it up. These are all homes that we've sold, by the way. Everything you see in here is our real stuff, our clients, our homes. So there's a lot of mistakes that first timers make. 90% of timers mess it up and they end up in the wrong house or they end up with a house that has problems. Our job today is to help you sort of see around the corners, anticipate problems so that you can avoid having that negative experience that so many people have. Part of our mission at the Home Run Team, not part of our mission, our real reason for being is that we want to make real estate better for everybody involved because it can be. All right, so mistake number one. First-time buyers don't take advantage of first-time buyer programs. I mean, it's there for you. It's right in the name, right? So there's a lot of these different programs. So some of them are specific to the location of the home. Some of them depend on your income. Some of them may require for you to hang on to the home for a few years. That's often like a HUD thing. Many have interest rates that are specialized, and some are 100% financing. Um, there are different first-time home buyer loans where you don't have to put any money down. Also, if you get a VA loan, you don't have to make a down payment, although there is a funding fee, and we can talk about that later if you have questions. Um, Sometimes you can get down payment grants. We've had a lot of grants at the state and local level the last few years. I had a client last year who had a $60,000 grant to help her buy her first home. Now that's the biggest one I've seen, and I haven't seen them that big very often, but there's still a lot of grants out there to help people buy houses. All right, so mistake number two, buyers do the right things, but in the wrong order. Um, this is so funny. Everybody does this. Everybody gets on Zillow and they're like, what's going on Zillow? And they're looking at the houses on Zillow and they're like checking the Zestimate, which is wrong most of the time, by the way. And they see all this stuff online. They see these beautiful houses because everything's photographed so well. And, they see these prices and think, my gosh, that's so much money. How am I ever going to get 20% down? So they disqualify themselves. They get so busy looking and they begin to feel like this isn't really for them. So if you've ever felt that way, like home ownership isn't really for you, I want you to know that it can be. It may take longer than you think it would take. It may take less time than you think it would take. It may be more work than you think. It may be less work than you think, but it is doable. There is a path to follow to get you there. Third step, they get curious and like start, they'll call a for sale sign, right? How much is this house? When can I see it? Yada, yada. They walk into a builder model. This is really perilous because the person working in the builder model, and we're going to talk about this a lot more in just a minute, is not there to help you. They're very friendly, but they're not there to help you. They'll visit a few open houses. In those cases, the person working there might be the listing agent, in which case they're not interested in representing you at all because they represent the seller. Well, actually, they may want to try to double side the deal, get paid by you and the seller, but that's still not really in your best interest in a lot of cases. Or they may be an agent holding the house open for the listing agent, in which case they want to sign you up as their client. And in that case, they are trying to help you because they need a client. Um, so there's a lot going on with open houses. There's layers to it. And then finally, they get tired and they just settle on a house and they let a listing agent, an open house, or builder's agent sign them up, do all the paperwork. There's no negotiation, and they've just bought a house and they may not have gotten everything they needed to do it the right way. So the real order you want to do this in is you want to get either a lender or an agent that you really trust, that you really know is capable. As an agent, I'm biased towards the agent. A lot of lenders would tell you get the lender first. But the first thing you want to do is get an expert on your side. That's how you start the process because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're expecting the seller's expert to help you. And that's what happens way too many times. Mistake number three, they get sucked in by the builder's marketing machine. See, I told you we were going to talk about this. So the builders, oh, hello. There we go. The builders are really good at marketing people, getting them to come to the property, come check it out. What they don't tell you is that if you go without an agent, very often they then won't compensate your agent. They're basically cutting your agent out of the process. If you don't have an agent, they're there, oh, we'll help you, we'll do the contracts, we'll do everything. The problem with that is they're not looking out for you. They are literally paid to look out for the builder's interests. That's their fiduciary responsibility. So, you know, when you're dealing with builders, you want to make sure you have your agent with you from the start to make sure that you're fully represented throughout the process. The builder would love for you to not have an agent because they're not going to give you that commission that you saved or that they saved, they're going to put it in their pocket. It increases their profit margin. It's part of the system. It's part of the plan. They build the money to pay your agent into the price of the house, but if they can get you to show up without an agent, they will just keep it. And why shouldn't they? Because you're unrepresented. You don't really know what they're doing. So there's a couple of approaches. First of all, you want to look for houses that are completed. If you're going to buy new builds, you want houses that are completed and have been sitting a while. The builders are paying every day for this completed house. They're paying interest loans, they're paying on their line of credit. It's costing them money every day it sits. So you want the finished house that isn't moving if you're going to buy a new build. That's a great strategy. Another one is the walk away game. And that's where it is what it sounds, right? You say, well, I'll walk away if I don't get what I want. I'll walk away if this, I'll walk away if that. But it's not a game. It's very serious. I mean, a client in one of the pictures we already showed you, we went to a new build site and we had a hard time getting straight answers. We had a hard time really just getting what we needed from the builder's representative to close the deal. And we didn't play a game. We walked away. We went and bought a house somewhere else. That's one thing you've got to be willing to do with all this. You've got to be willing to walk away if it's not the right deal. And how you know if it's the right deal is you have expert advice. All right. Mistake number 4. They get intimidated by the numbers. So many numbers. Have you guys seen that commercial with the lawyer? All sorts of numbers. There's all sorts of numbers in real estate, and a lot of them have these names that don't really tell you what they do. So let's take a look at what some of those are. So you've got all your closing costs, right? Well, I'm sorry, let me go in order. You've got the fees from the lender, which, the lender should get paid for doing their job. You've got rate buy downs, which is when you actually pay to get a lower interest rate, can be very good for you. And you've got things like HOA fees and taxes that have to be paid. Taxes and HOA fees tend to be prorated depending on when in the year you buy. You've got one-time funding fees. That's your VA loan. That's what they have instead of a down payment. And sometimes you have upfront mortgage interest, as on an FHA loan in some cases. And then the last thing is the prepaid taxes and insurance. And this is where we're talking about prorating. So these are what all the closing costs are. What's not a closing cost is your agent's commission. That is a separate charge that is negotiable. And it's not usually as much as the closing costs, but it's close. So the closing costs and the agent's fee typically, on average, are pretty close to the same amount. So there's good news and bad news. The bad news is all this gets kind of expensive. The good news is let's try to get somebody else to pay for it, right? This is something that we really specialize in, and it's going to tie into point 5 a lot. You want to get as many what's called concessions as possible. You want someone else to pay these bills, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. I mean, to expect a first-time home buyer to pay all this money, a lot of times is not very realistic. The good news is this market has shifted and sellers understand now that they're having to make concessions. So I can give you a recent example. I can give you 3 recent examples, actually, of how well, you know what? I'm going to save that for the next slide. I'm going to save it for the next slide. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so mistake number 5, they don't have a strong and experienced negotiator in their corner. And this is where an experienced agent that really knows what they're doing can help you. So let me give you 3 examples. We had a client in May, closed in May. Oh, I was a slide ahead. Sorry. We had a client that closed in May. She found a house she loved. It was $325,000. We were able to negotiate the house down to $310,000. We also got them to pay the agent's commission, and we got them to pay 3% closing costs. Now, my client wanted to keep more of her cash, so we actually upped the offer a little bit and got 4% closing costs. So we got a total of 7% closing costs, or $21,000 on this house, so that she didn't have to come out of pocket to buy this home. She went in, the concessions covered the closing costs and the commission. She was able to get her keys and move in and start making her payments. Oh, and we also got the seller to throw in a home warranty because we knew the AC system was a little bit older. So they paid about $1,000 for a home warranty on top of all the concessions. So when you total it all up between what we saved on the price of the house, between the concessions for the closing costs, between the agent's commission and the home warranty, we saved her over $30,000 on a $325,000 house, which, couldn't do that in 2021 very often, but we're doing it now a lot. The second example was a competitive bid situation where we knew we weren't going to be able to lowball. So actually what we did in that one is we came in a little high, not a ton, about $5,000. Now I knew because of recent sales in that community that that house was not going to appraise for that price. And if it doesn't appraise, that means the bank won't write the loan for the full amount. So we knew that was going to happen. But the seller did what I thought they would do. They took the highest, most attractive offer, which was ours. The appraisal came back at about $3,000 lower. So we got the seller to cut the price $3,000. So we ended up only paying about $2,000 more than the number two bidder. But they paid our commissions, they paid our closing costs, and they paid to have work done on the unit. So we got a ton of concessions as we went through. We got the concessions on the closing costs and the commission up front, and then we got more concessions on repairs after the contract was ratified, which is the second stage of negotiation. You negotiate first on the actual contract, and you negotiate second on repairs and anything that needs to be changed in the property that you want the seller to pay for. And then the last one is a home we helped a buyer buy in Norfolk. It was $750,000. They were not a first-time buyer, but this was a very old house, and it needed some. It looked great, but sort of inside the walls, it needed some serious work. So we were able to get the seller to come down $110,000 to cover the cost of that work. Now, why was that better than having the seller just do the work? First of all, it was expensive and time consuming for the seller. They didn't want to do it. But also, my client wanted to make additional improvements to the house and things like the plumbing, that by combining what had to be done and what they wanted done, they got a better price on both. So they were better off getting the house for less and just paying for all the work at once. So that was a really great one. And this is the kind of things that we can do with negotiations. This is the kind of things we understand about the different situations. Every situation is different. Every seller is different. The needs of every transaction are a little bit different from the one before. And while I'm here, I'm going to throw you a bonus tip on how not to screw this up. We have now put a policy in place at our company where for homes that fall into certain categories, we are requiring ourselves to advise our clients on doing additional inspections. Everybody, I think, has heard of home inspections. You may even have heard of a crazy time not too long ago when people were offering to buy a house without a home inspection or a home inspection for informational purposes only. I never recommended that. I thought it was a terrible, terrible idea because you don't know what you're getting. But here's the truth about home inspections. Home inspections vary widely in quality and results, not just from company to company or from inspector to inspector, but even for the same inspector from one house to another, because you have to see a lot of different houses before you really know what to expect. And in this market, we have tons of houses that are 50 years older or more. And something we have seen over and over and over again is failed sewer lines. People buy a house, the water runs fine when they go through their walkthrough. They buy the house, they start really cooking in it, using the garbage disposal, using the bathrooms, and all of a sudden every drain in the house backs up. This has been happening to people all over this area because a lot of these houses have really old plumbing in them. So past a certain date now, we now always advise our clients to get a specialized plumbing inspection. A home inspection is essential, but specialized inspections and knowing when to get them on things like the roof, the plumbing, and the AC is really important. So make sure your agent has some sort of policy, some sort of standard for specialized inspections, and that they actually know what they are, because a lot of agents don't even think about it. They do the home inspection, if that, and figure that's good enough. It's not a lot of times, especially when you have so much old inventory in the market as we do. So that was your free tip. So recap, you want to take advantage of first-time buyer programs. You want to do the right things in the right order. So start with your lender or your agent. Make sure you're protected when dealing with a builder. Don't go to the builder alone because they're not there to help you. Know what the numbers mean. And if you don't know, ask your agent or your lender. They should be able to tell you pretty quickly. Have a strong and experienced negotiator representing you, and have an agent that knows what to do in terms of evaluating older properties or properties, for instance, in flood zones. So that's everything we have. Um, so what Q&As do we have? Anybody want to put a question in the chat for me? Anybody? Let me see if I can think of a common question we get. Um, People ask, okay, a lot of times people ask, do I need 20% down to buy a house? Absolutely not. Um, the average down payment in America right now, I think, is about 6%. And that includes non-first time home buyers. So when we're talking about the down payment, is 20% a great idea? Is that what's usually required on a conventional loan? Absolutely. But so many loans are not conventional. So many loans are FHA, or they involve a first time buyer program, or they're VA, especially in this area, a ton of FHA and VA loans, and a ton of programs with down payment assistance. So if you're buying a $400,000 house, you probably will not have to come out of pocket $80,000. I mean, we've had the affordability crisis, and I know a lot of people, especially younger people, are just freaked out when they see a $350,000 house, and then someone tells them, "Oh, you have to have 70,000 down." They're like, "I'm 25. Where am I going to get $70,000?" Right? You don't need 70,000 down in virtually every case. If you got a good lender, you've got a good agent, we're going to find you a house and a mortgage that are going to set you straight. So worry a lot less about that. Any other questions popping up? What credit score do you need? That really depends on the lender and the product. So I don't want to speak to credit scores because I'm not a lender. I have seen people get home loans with scores in the 600s, and I've seen people get homes with scores in the 800s. It has a lot to do, I think, with your rate and your down payment, how much you can do with a given credit score. But that is definitely something we want to run by your lender and through underwriting as we get closer. Let's see, do we have any other questions? I'm sorry?
VA loans do that have loans?
So what's the impact of using a VA loan to buy a home? It's not that different really from buying your home regularly, except that you have the funding fee instead of the down payment. You can still get closing cost assistance to help with that funding fee. You can still get your often, and not always, but often, again, these are concessions, these are negotiated things, which you can get your agent paid for usually. And the other thing is VA inspections are tougher than regular inspections. So if you've got a seller who signals early on that they're not going to do any repairs, home as is, and you go look at it with an agent who's been through this process and they see things that they know the VA is going to want repaired before they'll fund the house, that's a good way to stop messing around with something early that isn't going to work, or to go back to the other side, go back to the agent for that seller and say, look, VA is not going to approve this. We got to get your seller to do a little bit here at least. And that's a negotiation, that's a conversation. It works out sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. But mostly what we see is the VA trying to get our veterans and our service people in houses. They got a little bit of static a few years ago when everything was selling so fast because the VA process, it moves at the VA process's speed. It's about the same as regular, but you can't rush these inspections. And they're not going to bend on them. You can't waive these inspections, right? So in an era when people were waiving inspections, that made it really hard to get a VA loan approved, or not approved, but accepted. Those problems are gone. VA loans are back and they're doing great. If we don't have anything else, wow, that was fast. Did I talk real fast? Am I a fast talker? I think I am sometimes. All right, so what I'd like to encourage anybody watching to do now, if you'd like to find out more about these issues, dig into them more. If you have questions I didn't cover, If you just want more detail or more information, by all means, there should be a link getting ready to get dropped in the chat so you can schedule a one-on-one appointment with me. There we go. So you can schedule the one-on-one appointment with me. We can do it at our office in Virginia Beach, or we can grab a cup of coffee in a place that's convenient for you. And we can just, take 45 minutes and answer all your questions about this process and help you get comfortable with it. I've had sit downs with a lot of first-time buyers and just kind of slowly walk through the process, showed them everything we need to do, and really helped them feel comfortable moving forward. And we love doing it. We love helping people get that first home. It's foundational to your financial health. It's foundational to having something to leave for your kids, if you're going to have kids. Not everybody does, but it's a fantastic wealth building tool. It's the best wealth building tool for most people, and we love helping people get that head start and then help them throughout their life. Go from their first home to their move up home to their dream home, to their second home. Their vacation home, back down to something makes a little bit more sense when they get older. We love being with you through the whole process. Our company is built and designed to be here for the long term so that you can get great customer service and fiduciary advice from a single advisor throughout your home buying journey. That's our design. We built this company for that. People have financial planners that they use forever. They have accountants they use forever. They have attorneys they use forever. But rarely do they have a real estate agent that they have that long-term relationship with, because real estate agents are kind of in and out a lot. So when we built our company, we built it to be that fourth advisor that you really need through your financial journey, through your life. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for joining. And I can't wait to hopefully set a one-on-one appointment with some of you. And, I had fun. I hope you did too. I hope we get to talk again soon.